This video is a recording of a routine that Dr. Joe Gray and I made for our students at the University of North Alabama. The idea behind this routine is that it would get them set up well on the trumpet for whatever they have to do during the day, whether it's marching band or jazz band or just any kind of regular practice they have for juries and things like that. It's a pretty basic routine. It shouldn't take much more than 20 or so minutes to do, and it covers all of the really basic fundamental things that we need to be able to do well to be able to play the trumpet well.
So the first part of this packet starts with breathing. It says breathe in with an O syllable, feel the cold spot toward the back of your mouth or as far back as your throat. So all we're gonna do is say like O and go. And as you breathe with a very open syllable, what's gonna happen is you're probably gonna feel a cold spot sort of in the middle of your tongue, could be a little bit further back, but it'll be inside your mouth somewhere. This cold spot inside your mouth, we want it to be on the lips. And so we're gonna then move the lips together and have a little bit more focused breath and go. So when you transfer that to the trumpet, you generally don't wanna breathe because you have to put it back all together and the air needs to, sort of move before it's usable. So we're gonna try to keep the lips together and feel that cold spot on the lips and go. Okay? The next one says feel the vibration. It says choose your own adventure. Mouthpiece, in and out, burgers. Play a G on the horn with a breath attack. Maintaining the airstream, pull the mouthpiece out till there is no sound. Maintaining the airstream, put the mouthpiece back in until you feel the vibration starts. So we're gonna loosen the mouthpiece a little bit. We're gonna set it in so you can kind of take it in and out. And we're gonna go. And you'll feel that when you play the note on the instrument, there's a vibration that will happen right at your aperture. And when you take the mouthpiece out, that vibration will stop. Then when you put the mouthpiece back in, the vibration will show up again. And what we're trying to do here is learn what the feeling is of that vibration. So it's something that we can focus on when we're doing drills for flow. We're doing generally anything on the trumpet. We want that vibration to be there, and it's how we can ensure that things are connected when we play. Another way to go about feeling the vibration, another adventure you could take is whisper tones. So we're gonna breath attack a middle G at mezzo forte dynamic. We're gonna gradually reduce the volume until you lose the sound. When you lose the sound, you will lose the vibration on the lips. And then make an effort to get the sound back and try to maintain the sound at this very soft dynamic. When you get the sound back, the vibration will start again. Over time, work to control the sound without losing it. And then once you feel comfortable with a middle G, add in other notes to explore different ranges on the trumpet. So breath attack on a mezzo forte, and we're just gonna diminuendo. I'm gonna go far enough that I lose the sound. And then you heard when I lost the sound, I tried to give a little bit more intensity so that I could get the sound back, and then I just tried to hover there. What this is gonna do is help you learn how to play with a more focused aperture. I don't want you to think about your aperture necessarily, but that's what this drill does. So you wanna start on G and get a relationship with how this exercise works, and then you can move on to other notes. In the book that I got this from, John Daniel's Special Studies, he just does a G major scale down and a G major scale up. So that could be something to start with. You'll do a whisper tone on G, and then a whisper tone on F sharp, and then on E, and then on D, and then on C. And you're just practicing playing with a good, healthy airflow, and then trying to maintain that vibration on the aperture as you get softer. Looks like the last choose your own adventure here is airstream into sound. Set your embouchure and release an airstream into the trumpet without making a sound. Gradually up the intensity until your trumpet sound speaks. This will help you understand how to focus on the vibration at your aperture when producing sound. The vibration needs to be present at all times when playing. So this is sort of like a modified breath attack. Generally with breath attacks, we're just setting our embouchure. We're not doing anything weird. We're just sort of letting air go. This is sort of like we're gonna move some air through the instrument with no vibration, and then you give a little bit more. It's almost like a reverse breath attack, a reverse whisper tone, if you wanna think of it that way. It's actually kind of difficult for me to let the air go for a while because I've practiced these breath attacks so much, trying to get immediacy with them, that they are immediate. And so what I would recommend is doing either mouthpiece in and out burgers or whisper tones. And if you're finding it difficult to get this thing to work, then do airstream into sound. Moving on, we have Poo-doo attacks. So a poo attack and a breath attack are different. A breath attack, things stay open in your aperture and everything. You're not closing down. And a poo attack, you actually bring the lips together and then release the sound in some sort of quasi-articulation. And so I personally don't do a lot of poo attacks. I do more breath attacks, but you should experiment with both to see, because there are lots of great players who do poo attacks and they work for them. So I'm gonna do these with breath attacks instead of poo attacks. And all you're trying to do is get the air moving and then coordinate an articulation. And then get the air moving and coordinate the articulation sooner. And then get the air sooner, get the air sooner. So eventually, it's as if the air is it's so fast that you're essentially articulating, but with the air already out there. The air is forward, right? And this is how we want the articulation to feel at any time. So you can see on this exercise, the very last note, there's no poo attack. It's just an articulation. So if we've done this exercise correctly, that last articulation will feel and sound as easy and as coordinated and as clear as all of the other articulated notes as well. So you can do this with a metronome, but you want to try to keep the relationships as close as possible and just get faster over time. In terms of dynamic, it's fine just to play this at a comfortable mezzo forte or a comfortable dynamic for you to start out with. And then as you get more comfortable, more skilled at playing it at mezzo forte, feel free to play them louder or play them softer to work on dynamic range as well. All right. Next is going to be long tones. I've talked a lot about long tones, so this will sound familiar, but just to make sure we go through it. The purpose of long tones is to practice imprinting healthy playing habits in a basic context. So we want to breathe with the air forward on your lips. That's the cold air on the lips we talked about at the beginning. We want to release the sound with a clear and coordinated articulation. That's what we were just practicing with the Poo-doo exercise or the Poo-doo exercise just before this. When you release the sound, focus on keeping the air consistent and energized for the entirety of the long tone. Focus on keeping the vibration on your lips. So essentially, everything we've done up until this point is to set us up to be able to be successful in just creating one beautiful note with a clear and coordinated articulation to do it with consistency. So to perform these long tones, you want to set a metronome. I personally don't play the same tempo every single day, and I usually pick a random tempo between 60 and 80 beats per minute. So for this example, I'm going to do 70 beats per minute. So you're going to start it, and you're going to play a middle G for 8 counts total, and then you're going to rest for 8 counts, or 8 beats of the metronome. So and then you're going to go down a half step to F sharp after 8 counts of rest. And then you go down another half step to F after 8 counts of rest. Then down another half step. Okay, and you're gonna do that down chromatically or down a half step for each note, just like we did until you reach low F sharp. When you get to low F sharp, you're gonna return to the G that you started on, middle G, and we're gonna go up chromatically. Then you're going to take this up as high as is comfortable for you. For me, that's often around high E or high F. I'm a little lightheaded right now because that sucked to do. So, like, I feel like I almost passed out there. Anyway, So you can hear that the sound isn't super loud when I'm up there. I don't feel like I'm going to injure myself or anything like that. So it's completely fine to go into the upper register. The notes can get softer. As long as you're not going to injure yourself, it's okay. If you start to feel like you're pressing or forcing, that's probably a good place to stop and to build up the requisite skill you need to be able to get into the upper register with more success. Now, long tones, this is, for me, a place where we can begin to look for literal perfection in our playing. You're not going to have it right out of the gate, but when we're talking about just playing one note, we should be able over time, if we understand proper form and healthy trumpet playing, we should be able to get to a point where we can nail all of these long tones in the scale, in these chromatic scales, with a beautiful first attack, with consistency, and to have a consistent, energized, free resonant sound that follows. And so that's the goal of these, is to remove technical limitations as a barrier to high-level playing and instead make it so it's super easy so we can play at a higher level. If you can do long tones and you understand how you're doing it at a high level, the rest of the trumpet is just expanding upon that. I've made a video where I actually go through a full long tone exercise, so if you want to see that, I'll link that down in the description of this video so you can check that out and go through the whole entire thing. Okay, next we have Chickawood's flow studies. So the purpose of the flow study is to take healthy playing habits you imprinted during long tones and apply them to an exercise that involves moving notes and increases range. So it's essentially the same thing as long tones. We want the same free and easy feeling, but now we're going to change notes. So we're going to work on connection a little bit and trying to make sure that our sound stays the same no matter what. So the way that I've been doing these recently, start each series with 2 breath attacks, ensuring that pitch is centered and that the sound is resonating and that the vibration is steady, right? So we're just gonna do 2 breath attacks to get the sound out there. On the 3rd attack, add a clear and coordinated articulation to start the written exercise. Then we wanna add a gliss and a bend to the 3rd to the last note and the last note, skipping the 3rd in between. To do this, we need to keep the aperture focused, the lips forward, and the vibration steady throughout the gliss and the bend. If you perform it correctly, the bottom note should pop with a great resonating sound. So you want to control the bend all the way through, and the reason we do this, or the reason I incorporate this into my Chickawood's flow studies, is to ensure I'm getting into the low register with focus and intensity in my air, and I'm not just like dropping my jaw with like bad habits. So it's to make it so the low register is more accessible. And then as the exercise increases in range, be sure to keep your focus on healthy playing habits. Easy and resonating sound. We want to keep the corners firm as we go up, keep the vibration going, centered pitch, etc. The goal is to make every note sound fantastic, not just focusing on the top pitch every time. So I mentioned a lot of things here to focus on. When you're performing the exercise, you want to just focus on the sound you're creating. And then as you play it, you'll notice, oh, the upper register doesn't feel good, or you'll notice the sound isn't quite as easy as the sound I have in my head. Then you can use these different focal points, resonating sound, firm corners, steady vibration, to begin to assess where the weak link is in your approach. So maybe you play and the connection is not great. You're feeling lots of gaps between the notes. So you think, well, maybe I'm not keeping the vibration steady. So then that is something to focus on as you're doing it. Keep the vibration steady, and that will help you develop this particular skill. So I'm gonna play a few of the notes from each series so you can see how I do it. So first series goes up to the root, and I have 2 breath attacks, and then I bend the last little bit of it. You can hear on the bend, there's no gaps in it, and the bend is staying the same volume the whole time. This is a weird thing to coordinate at first, but that's what you're going for. You're trying to aim to keep the bend the same volume, and then it's uninterrupted. I'm also not trying to control when the bend falls off to the bottom note. I'm not trying to manipulate that and put it where I want it to go. I'm just bending down, and then the note just falls off, and then I'm in this very focused, centered spot on the note. Okay, so you would continue the rest of the series doing A flat, I guess technically, yeah, A flat, G. So when I'm finished with that first series, the next one I do is to go up to the 5th on the top of the staff. If you're not ready to go up to that, then put a few of them in between, going up to the 2nd, the 3rd, or whatever. But I go up to the 5th next, and I add a lip trill at the top, and I take out the bend at the bottom. So now I'm trying to get down to the low register, and then way that the exercise is printed, but I'm trying to keep those habits from when I bent it, so I'm getting into the low register correctly. I also keep my 2 breath attacks at the beginning. If the lip trill is not something that you can do, I've been doing this for a while, so the lip trill feels comfortable for me. If you're interested in exploring lip trills, this is a decent way to do it. But if you don't want to do the lip trills, just play the exercise normally. Hopefully you can hear when I'm doing this that all of the notes are very smooth and connected, as if I'm using the same air that I would use on a regular long tone, right? All right, the next series I do is going up to the root at the top, and I add articulations at the top to just check in with how does my upper register feel. And I also get rid of the bends at this point. So it's basically the exercise as it's printed. I just add some of those articulations again to check my upper register. And again, if you want to explore the upper register like that, try to keep everything nice and long and you're not forcing any of those notes. I'd say clear and coordinated articulation and keeping everything nice and long so there's just lots of air and ease. We don't want to develop bad upper register habits through this exercise. But if you don't want to do that, just play the exercise as normal. Make sense? All right, so we have all of the flow study things here. So then we move on to Bailin. So Bailin just says maintain a consistent and steady tone, Don't telegraph that a note change is coming. Stay on the pitch for the full length of the note before moving to the next pitch. So all this means is for these exercises, this Bailin exercise here, we want to try to keep it so it's one long tone and then we're moving to another long tone and then we're moving back to the original long tone. We want to try to really work on centering our pitches and playing with that full, beautiful sound. It's just a little bit more tricky, or it takes a little bit more skill now to manage slurring from one note to another. Ideally, you want to play with lots of vibrant air, so you're not thinking like da, ah, da, but rather da, da, ah. Like you can hear when I sing it, you can hear me moving to another note, but the quality of the note that I'm singing in terms of the sound, which is terrible. I have a terrible singing voice, but you can hear that the quality doesn't change. That's what I'm after when I play the trumpet as well. For these, I would pick a random tempo between 60 and 90 beats per minute. Right now, I'm just gonna do 84 just to move it along. But there is a lot of value in playing these exercises at 60 beats per minute, just incredibly slow. Hopefully the thing that sticks out the most to you when I play this is just that the sound is staying the same. And that can be a really good guide for you on this. If you want to know if you're doing it correctly, are all of your attacks free and easy with that same long tone approach that we had earlier? And then when you change notes, does the quality of sound change or does it stay the same? I'm gonna try to play it where you can hear this quality of sound changing. You know, I'm fake manipulating here to prove a point or to explain a point, but you can hear that besides it sounding out of tune, because I was purposely pushing notes down or up, the sound changed, the quality of the sound. I lost that focused, dense, free, beautiful sound, and it started to sound a little bit pinched or sounded kind of lacking energy in terms of being flat. So let's just do it again, and we'll focus on keeping the sound exactly the same. So that's what you're after on these exercises. And then this Bailin exercise, Bailin number 9, it's not dissimilar in the need to keep the air moving and to play from the center of one note to the center of another note. But now it's just a little trickier because notes are moving faster. So you got to kind of have to learn how to be flexible and let you're sort of aiming in different places, but also trying to keep your air exactly the same. For these, I choose a tempo between 90 and 120, so I'll just do 114 for now. I know this may seem really basic, but the thing we want to do here is set ourselves up for long-term success. And so we don't want to skip these basic steps in our playing, because if you understand how to do this, then when you make it slightly harder, and then slightly harder, and then slightly harder, you can see that it's all built on exactly the same foundation. So we need to get the foundation first and understand how these things work, and then apply that knowledge to more and more difficult things. All right, so then we have scales. Breathe without tension. Keep the air on the lips during the inhale. Have a clear and coordinated articulation. Have a consistent and energized airstream. Keep your aperture focused and develop firm and supportive corners. So just playing scales is just gonna do this. So we would just maybe do your circle of fifths. I don't know, you can choose whatever you want. You can play it in whatever way you want, but I'm gonna set it for 120. I would recommend slurring the scales at first, just to take out the tongue as a possible issue. So the clear and coordinated articulation is mostly referring to the very first articulation. Stuff as simple as that. And you can play it at 120. There's a lot of value at playing scales at like 80. From here, this whole routine, the main goal of it is to get you set up with good, healthy fundamentals. From here, you could play Arbin articulation exercises, or you could do some lyrical etude work, or you could do multiple tonguing, or you could work on jury pieces or solo pieces, or you could work on etudes. It doesn't really matter, but doing something like this routine every day with the purpose of saying, this is all super basic, I should be able to play it at an insanely high level, and I owe it to myself to show up and be that very, very good trumpet player if I ever want to hope to be able to play with those habits on much more difficult material. That's the purpose of this particular routine. I hope that this makes sense, me going through it like this, and thank you for watching.